your hand and tell me, what are the roots, or what do roots even mean? Raising your hand. Camilla. X-intercepts, right? So, Camilla, what are the X-intercepts here? Or the roots? Perfect. 2, 0, and 8, 0. So remember, X-intercepts, I see people messing it up and putting 0, 2. Or I see people doing 2, 8. Remember, they're 2 separate points, and it's where it crosses my x-axis. So those are your roots, solutions, zeros, they all mean the same thing. Who can raise their hand and tell me what is the vertex, TJ? 5, 9. So vertex is your min or your max, right? So I go up to, it's the very tippy top or the tippy bottom. So who can raise their hand and tell me, is this a min or a max, Jordan? Maximum. And also, leading coefficient. That means the number that's in front of your, or it's your A, right? It's the number in front of x squared. When we look at that, if it's negative, remember negative Nancy, she's always frowning. And positive Patricia, she's always up and smiling, right? And so is this an example of negative Nancy or positive Patricia? Right here. Negative Nancy, look at how mad she is, right? So we know it's this. Is that opening down or up? Down. Down. So we know it opens down, even though the question didn't ask that. I'm just going to write that. It opens down, and it has a maximum, right? And so our leading coefficient would have to be negative or positive. Right here. If this is negative Nancy, we know it's negative. Because our parabola looks like this. So if it looks like a negative Nancy, we know our leading coefficient, or A, is negative. If it's positive, she would look happy as can be, like positive Patricia over here, and we would know our leading coefficient is positive. Does that make sense? Okay, so today's a pretty short lesson. It's probably like the shortest so far. So you're going to take that purple sheet out. We're going to go over that in a few minutes. But take that purple sheet out. And these are your notes for today. And so what we're going to be doing is I want you to first write the quadratic equation. So it's x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Beautiful. And so hint, what I'm saying right now is going to be part of your written communication for today.
Oh, great.
This is going to be your written communication for today. So you might want to pay attention, especially since some of us are struggling to find it. Just write it anywhere. On the top of that purple sheet. It's on the purple sheet. And this is what's going in your survival guide. Does anyone need the purple sheet? I think everyone has. All right, cool. So last class, we learned about this part of the quadratic equation, right? And I always give you this. We learned about this part. And what is, who can raise their hand and tell me, what is that called? What is that formula called, Jordan?
Quadratic function.
This whole formula is called the quadratic equation. But what is this part of it, Lisa? Discriminant. So remember, that discriminates and tells you, is it going to be negative, or sorry, if it's negative, I'm going to have no solutions. Remember, if it was positive, you're going to have 2 solutions, and if it was 0, you're going to have 1 solution. That's what we did last class, right? And so your written communication, hint, is going to be, tell me the 2 different things that I can derive or get out of this quadratic function. So the first one you know would be discriminant, right? We know that this part of it, if I totally forgot everything, you're always given this whole formula, but you need to know that part of it is called the discriminant. That tells you how many solutions there are. Now the other part of it is we're going to be focusing on this outside part today, negative b over 2a. And that gets me my axis of symmetry. So I'm never going to give you that formula, but if you forget this formula, you can always look at the quadratic equation and know it's the outside of the radical. So make sure you write this down on that purple sheet. So that's what we're going to be focusing on today. And so your axis of symmetry, remember, axis of symmetry, remember I emphasize that x is your x-coordinate of your vertex, right? And so what we're going to be doing is first we're going to be labeling. So, Kirsten, what's A in this equation? What is it? -1. Beautiful. Kaylin, what's C? 10. And Jordan, what's C? Beautiful. So you don't have to write this out every single time. I'm just showing you step by step. But once you get it, you're not going to need to do this much work. I'm just showing you the steps behind it. So all you're going to be doing is you're taking that negative b over 2a, and I'm bringing this over here. For some reason on my board, I don't have a lot of room. You might have some more room, but I'm just going to draw a little arrow right here. And we know the vertex, the x-coordinate of our vertex is the axis of symmetry. So it's basically the same thing. So we have negative b over 2a. And negative b just means the opposite of b, right? Negative, opposite, same thing. So right here, what is the opposite of 10? My b? Negative 10. So I'm going to write that right here. Negative 10. And so if this b was negative, what would be the opposite? Positive, right? Go over 2, and what's your a? Negative 1. Cool. And so we end up getting negative 10. And what's 2 times negative 1? Negative 2. And you end up getting 5. You can write on top of this. We're not going to really use it today. 5, right? And so that is your axis of symmetry. We know that that's going to be our x-coordinate of our vertex. So that little tippy top or tippy bottom, whatever it is going to be, the x-coordinate is going to be 5. Does that make sense so far? The biggest mistake I see people doing is messing up signs. So be careful, like negative and a negative, or multiplying signs, or adding signs. That's the biggest mistake I see. Now, to get your y-coordinate, all we're doing is plugging it in, plugging in. So we're taking the original equation, which is negative x squared. You see that right there? This one right here? I'm going to take it, and I'm going to drag him right here. I'm going to rewrite him, but instead of x, I'm going to put parentheses. So go ahead, rewrite it, but instead of x, you're just going to put parentheses. So it looks something like that. And so we can even type this right into our calculator, but just in case, remember milestones, sometimes you don't get the calculator. What could I put into the x-coordinate? What is our x-coordinate of our vertex? 5. So what are we going to put right here? What's the invisible number right here? A 1, right? So it's negative 1. So we might want to add that. The other mistake I see people doing is multiplying first. But in PEMDAS, what comes first, exponents or multiplying? Exponents. So first we would do our exponents. So what's 5 squared? 25 times negative 1. What's negative 1 times 25? Perfect. And I get negative 25. Then what's 10 times 5? So plus 50 minus 23. And when I end up doing that, what is negative 25 plus 50? 25 minus 23? 2. And so your x-coordinate, or your y-coordinate of your vertex is 2. So I would come up here, I'm going to put a 2. Does anyone need to still copy this? Yeah. And so the last parts of the lesson that I want to go over, everyone has this down. I'm going to go back up. So I know when I'm plotting it, I'm going to just sketch it graph. It's not going to be that accurate. I'm just going to sketch it. So I have 5, 2, and that's my vertex right there. I'm looking at my A, like we did on the bell ringer. And so when I look at my A, which is next to x squared, is that negative or positive? Negative Nancy, right? Here she is frowning. So we know that it's going to look something like this, right? Not exact, but I'm just kind of sketching it out. So is negative Nancy going to have a minimum or a maximum? A maximum, right? And this 2, the y-coordinate, is considered your min or your max. So 2 would be your max. We also know it opens what direction? Yeah. And that's the lesson. Yeah. Yeah.
So you got the rest of the theory to do everything else.
Yeah, but I'm going to do one more thing. So get your survival guide out. And so today, we're not going to do this yet, but the homework, you already got BB1, you got to a 70, right? And I say go up to where you had graphs, or you didn't have graphs anymore. So now that we know the equation, we're able to do it without the graphs. So all your homework is tonight is to get from a 70 to 100 on BB1. That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm going to give you a little BB1 cheat sheet. So your next page of your survival guide, so we're going to be gluing this in, just hold tight on that. On the next page, does everyone have this down? Yeah. Sure. So on the next page, you're just writing quadratic cheat sheet, however you say it.
Where? In our
It's on the next page of your survival guide. Let me go over it. So you can write this down and know how to do it. Let me go over it. Does anyone else see paper that paper out there? Just collecting all the papers they're going to put in the book. So this is for BB1. So maybe put a little BB1 like this so it can be your little guide. So you should have this book out while you're doing your homework. So you just do it on the next page. Or you can do it right there. Doesn't matter. Okay, so first is what we did, which was axis of symmetry. And so when it asks for the axis of symmetry, we know it has to be an equation, right? What letter is axis of symmetry talking about? X. So if you don't write, remember, X equals, if you guys remember that, they mark it wrong. So maybe I'm giving you a little cheat sheet, so when you do BB1, it's making your life a little bit easier. And so X equals, what was that formula we used to find the axis of symmetry? Beautiful. So that's what you're doing when they ask for axis of symmetry, which is not new. I'm just giving you a little. Vertex means both coordinates, right? So your X and your Y. So we know vertex, your X coordinate is your axis of symmetry. So we can just write AOS. Put a little arrow right there. And how do we get the Y coordinate? What did we do with the X coordinate? Plug it in, plug it in. So you should have two coordinates. Next one is if they ask for the min or max, they just want the Y coordinate of your vertex. So for your min or max, they just want the Y coordinate of your vertex. So this is on their IXL. So they'll ask, you just want to make sure you're paying attention. Are they going to ask, these are the four, there's one more. There's four things that they're going to be asking for. One is, give me the equation of axis of symmetry. One is, give me the vertex. One is, give me the min or max, which is your Y coordinate, this coordinate right there. And the last one is your Y-intercept. And so no matter what equation, what number am I always plugging into what? Not one. Plug in 0. And I think people are saying 1 because remember, anything to the 0 power is 1. And I think that's why people are getting confused. That was from exponential. But we're always plugging in 0 for x, technically. And then you solve.
Wait, so we're doing all of this for that, or you're just...
These are the four different things for your IXL. And so remember, you already got up to a 70. It's only going to probably be like 10 questions. So in order to get them right, you want to make sure like you take your time and figure out what are they asking. Are they asking for the Y-intercept? Are they asking for the min or max? Are they asking for the vertex? And they'll tell you. I just don't want you to go down and score and rush through it. That's why I only need to get that 30 points at this point. Does this make sense?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to do one example from your packet, and then you're free to do it on your own. After that, we have our mini quiz and the written communication. It's one question, and your written communication, I already told you what it is, so maybe look over it before we take that. And then your BB1, you can work on if you're done early, and your agenda check, just the same for your agenda. Sound good? Okay, I'll pass on blue 6 in a second, but let's do one question together. So let's do 2. I'm going to do 2 with you. So it's right at the bottom of that page, right there. You're on. You don't even need to flip. Right on the bottom. So first I'm going to be doing my negative b over 2a. And you have to remember that formula before we can get it on the quadratic equation. So what is my b here? So what's the opposite of negative 80? Positive 80. And then 2, what's your A? 4. So what is 2 times 4? And so what's my coordinate going to be? 10. And what's that called? Your x-coordinate or your axis of symmetry. So I know my axis of symmetry and my x-coordinate for my vertex is going to be 10. To get your y-coordinate, what do? Plug it in, plug it in. So rewrite the equation. A lot of people want to rush through it and they get the wrong answer. So make sure you just write out the equation. You can use your calculator and just type in exactly what we did last time with the b squared minus 4ac. You can do that with this. But just make sure you know how to do it by hand also in case this comes up on your milestone with non-calculator. Get plus 394. Cool. So what are we going to plug in for x? 10. And so what is 10 squared? 100. And what's 100 times 4? 400. Minus, what's 80 times 10? That one? 800, right? I just added the 0. Plus 394. What's 400 minus 800? Negative 400. And what's negative 400 plus 394? Beautiful. So we have negative 400 plus 394 and get negative 6. So that negative 6 would be my y-coordinate, right? Now, last thing, they wanted the direction. So is this a positive or negative? Remember, we're always looking at the equation, not my vertex. So is A positive or negative? Good. We're looking at that 4. So since A is positive, we got a positive Patricia. There she is, happy as can be. Yeah, because they want the direction of the opening.
So we could just say opens up.
Mm-hmm. Opens up. And I know it's not asking for it, but it's on your Excel, so I want to get you used to it. Will this have a min or a max? A min, right? So I put this right here, and so my minimum, what would my minimum be? Negative 6. So you don't have to do that for every problem, but I just want to get you used to what's the x-coordinate of your vertex referred to with your y-coordinate. Does that make sense? And this is what your mini quiz looks like. One question like that. Any questions?
One question like that.
And then the ring communication, yeah. So work on it. I have the answer key up here with stamps. And then if you get done early, you can do some of your IXL. Get that done.